On today's episode of OMG Craft, we are going to show you how to make a mirrored floor. A floor that is so glossy that it is going to reflect everything off of it on, so you can see, the same stuff that's sitting on top of it on the other side of it. It's like a mirror. So here we are inside of Minecraft, and this is the illusion that we are going for. You can see that everything in this room is mirrored on the floor itself. So we have this incredibly glossy, it is absolutely a mirror here. Everything from up here is mirrored through the floor onto the other side. And it's pretty incredible, I must say. I actually installed a mod to pull this off. This is a mirrored floor mod. It took a long time to code. It was it's like portals in Minecraft. Okay, so obviously I didn't actually install a mod. This can be done in vanilla, it can be done in Java, it can be done in Bedrock. And what is going on is this glass makes it look like we are reflecting the floor, but actually everything is built on the other side. It's a pretty cool illusion, and you can use any type of glass. So right now I have just straight normal glass. It really does make it look like a mirror. You could also use tinted glass. It kind of brings away the harshness of that edge on this glass, and also adding a color tint sort of separates the two rooms a little bit better. You can even make that a little bit darker with black glass here. So we have some black glass to kind of pull off that look as well. And you can even change the tint to a color. So we have some red glass here if you wanted sort of some red stuff as well. So the rest of the video is going to be showing you a few techniques in order to pull this off. One of the first things you need to make sure is that you are only using one. Spooky. Like I was saying, one of the things that you're going to need to remember is to only use one type of glass. So if I wanted to get fancy with a sort of glass pattern, I can't, because it's pretty obvious now that that is glass and that isn't some type of mirrored floor. So anytime that you have the mistake of seeing a side of this glass other than the side that is the top and the tiled surface, that is where you're gonna fail, and that is where this whole illusion sort of breaks down. Anytime that there is glass that has a side that is facing you and also touching air, then you will see that edge of the glass. So the way we pull off this technique is to always make sure that there is either a solid block next to that piece of glass. So right here, you can kind of see every side, but if we switch that out for a opaque solid block, we put that there and then put one on top of it. Now it looks like it is mirrored because you don't see the glass. You only see the top surface of it, and you don't see those edges. Or you need to make sure that the face that is facing you will never be seen. So right here, you can see, like, let's on this side, you can only see two faces. The two faces that are facing away from me, I can't see. So we have this same issue over here with this slab right here. You have no ability to actually see the face that is facing away from you, because there is this little half block right here that's actually facing away from you. And so what we've done is we have filled it on either side with these solid blocks. If those solid blocks weren't there, then there's a chance if you come over here, you can see that face that is touching air and also facing you. So we fix that technique by filling up either side of a transparent block with a solid block. Same thing with this stair right here. If this wasn't here, you'd be able to tell that this stair was touching a piece of glass on the other side. So you always need to make sure that if you have a half block or a semi-transparent block, you fill it on either side with some solid blocks. Almost everything that you build normally can be normally mirrored. So if you're building with blocks, almost all of that can be mirrored. Normally the textures are so similar that you really can't tell the difference between mirrored and unmirrored. There are a few textures that you need to avoid, and we're going to get to that in just a moment. And there's a few sort of like useful blocks that you also have to avoid. One of those is torches. You can see there's no torches. Torches only face up ever, and so those are kind of a problem. But right here we even have a pretty practical situation where we have a crafting table, a furnace, and a chest and a bed, and we're using this sort of trough foundation here to hide the fact that most of these are not actually mirrorable. So that bed on the other side actually isn't there at all. We have a few of these blocks, but they are upside down. But because we have fit all of this inside of a trough, you can't really get a good glimpse of anything. So that furnace right there, you can sort of see the edge, but yeah, that kind of looks like the edge of the top of the furnace. Same thing with the crafting table if you're moving kind of quickly. And the bed is in such a position that your mind just kind of assumes that, oh, it's so small, I can't see it anyway. Over here with the chests, we have item frames, and item frames obviously can be rotated in any direction. So we have every item frame duplicated and turned 4 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Then it matches what is down below. And over here, this is really where the illusion breaks the most, because those chests are facing upwards with the latch near the top. But as long as you're moving kind of quickly, you tend to not stare at those types of details, so it doesn't break the illusion too much. Over here, this is some of my favorite things. These are grindstones, and grindstones can be placed in any position, even upside down. So this grindstone really helps to bring the illusion all together because it can be placed correctly and then upside down. And this is an anvil, and this anvil is actually sitting on a piece of string. So it's basically floating. This is a gravity affected block. So if you destroy that string, then it will fall. So you use string to keep your anvil suspended in the air, and your eye doesn't really notice the fact that the top portion and the bottom portion are 2 different sizes. When you're on the other side of this illusion, you tend to not notice that. As long as they're facing the general, same direction and whatnot, it seems to all make sense. This is some gravity affected blocks as well. This is sand, so sand should fall if it was placed upside down, but we're using the same technique. You can barely see the string underneath this tile right here. So we're using string in order to keep all of those blocks on the other side suspended. Now I have this really weird fun house, and it also has a ladder that is mirrored as well. This fun house in the corner, this is where all of the illusions break. Behind this door, I've used a ceiling and some corners here so that you can't see what's on the other side. And these are all the blocks that you really want to avoid, or you need to work around whenever you are building a mirrored room. So another thing is that this is kind of where I hide, where I could go in between the 2 sides of the room. So if I was building this in survival, I actually have a way to get down to the other side and build around. And this is kind of fun just to see everything flipped upside down. That's completely built upside down. So let's talk about some of the blocks that we want to avoid, and we'll just go around in a circle. First off are beds. Beds do not have a mirror. You can't put them upside down. That's why we use the technique to put our bed inside of a trough over on the other side. Torches, they face upwards and they burn upwards, and so if you place one over on the other side, it's always going to look a little bit funky, so you want to avoid torches. Obviously, you want to avoid any holes in the ground, so this ladder situation you would need to have hidden in some way so that it's not obviously apparent. Next is signs. You could sort of get creative with signs, maybe, but the words are not always going to be able to be mirrored. This is kind of the closest that I could imagine, because there's just some letters that are not upside down-able, and you can't flip signs upside down. Armor stands are the same way. You just can't get these guys upside down in any way, so armor stands and campfires need to be avoided. Also, campfires have smoke that goes up, not down, so you're never going to really be able to mirror those very well. Now, next is a whole bunch of blocks, except for this fire here, that have textures that basically are not mirrored. So we have a chest here. Another issue is that if you have a block that isn't a full-size block and it's sitting on the ground, you need to somehow put that onto a full-size block. This chest right here really breaks the illusion, A, because it doesn't look upside down, and B, because it's not a full block and you can see the gap in the glass there, so that's not good. Pumpkin, this texture is very right side up, and there is no mirror version of that. Same thing a little bit with this or right here. The or is the same on both sides. You need the flipped version, but these are details that, and I kind of put this here to show you that they can kind of still be done. This isn't completely out of the question if you're making this type of room, if they are far enough apart and if you don't really have enough time to directly compare. And we have that over here on the other side with a few things like the chests right here, and a few other textures, like maybe the stone. Like you can see that the stone should have a few textures that are different. Also, these doors right here, if you look really closely, the handles are the same. They're not upside down. So maybe the door would be another thing that the texture doesn't quite match. But most people, and same thing with the wool, the textures don't quite match. But your eye, there's no way to actually see that easily. So some of this can be broken up with space and you could still use this. Some issues, like definitely an enchanting table, there's just no way to pull that off. It just looks totally broken. Furnaces, same sort of issue. Fire, there's no way to put down upside down fire on the other side, so you're kind of out of luck. Now, this is back to where you can sort of see some of the glass faces with half slabs. So make sure that you're placing some type of solid block wherever you would have a glass that would show up, and then you'll be able to hide that in your illusion if you need to use a half block or a block that would have access to air. And also, this is a fence. Fences need to be sitting on a solid block in order to pull off the illusion. So if I wanted to do something like this, I would probably first need to grab the fence again, but you would need to put down the fence, then a solid block again, and then the fence. And now that looks like a mirrored version of either side. The other thing you have to consider is the entrance into something like this. Doors cannot be placed one on top of another. And even if they could, you need to be able to step on a solid block as you walk through. So you're always going to need your doors to be raised up a block. So that's why we have these steps up here to this door that leads to nowhere. But this really breaks the illusion. This is what it looks like on the outside. So doors will always need to be on top of a block, and also you're going to be wanting to use a door that has a completely solid texture that will look at least a little bit, oh, those are in redstone, I forgot, that look a little bit like they are mirrored. So that's really only the spruce and the dark oak doors. Every other type of door really looks pretty obvious whenever you put it down, and especially because some of these have transparencies with them, but none of these can really be flipped maybe this acacia door could be flipped fairly easily, but like here, where I'll just kind of show you right here. If I set it right there, come over here, this is another issue, is that it needs to actually be resting on something. So here, I'll just this is a really quick and dirty, there we go. Okay, cool, put that there. And yeah, so you can kind of see, yeah, that looks a little bit mirrored, a little bit, but you also need to worry about what is going to be on the other side. Like having a window in one of these rooms would be a little bit difficult because you'd be able to tell that what is on the other side is not being mirrored. Maybe next to this ocean, and maybe that works, but not really. It's kind of pretty obvious that you have two sort of sides. So windows are kind of out as well. All in all, I think that this type of illusion is just so fun to play around with, mess around with, and it really, really, really adds a lot of creativity, and you need some problem solving skills in order to fix some issues that may arise whenever you are building one of these types of builds. There you go. That is really all of it when it comes to the technique of building a mirrored floor in Minecraft. Hope that you find this video useful and that you enjoy it. If you do, please give this video a big old thumbs up. Also, make sure you subscribe for future videos, tips, tricks, tutorials, and spotlights here on OMG Craft, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye!